So we come to the end of our series, Hit the Ground Listening, where we've been thinking about what we've been through, what we've learnt, who are we, and this last week we've been thinking about what are we going to do. It's a week for me where I've been in isolation because all my family have had COVID, so a lot of the things I'd planned to do, football competition, Tonbridge Angels AGM, marrying a couple at TBC, that's our church, doing a funeral, have all been put on pause for me, but not for the people involved in them. They've carried on, but I've not been able to do what I was meant to do in them. What are we going to do? What are you going to do as we move forward out of this pandemic? God, hope we do. Andy Stanley's an American minister, and he talks about the tyranny of ought, if I remember correctly. He says that we do so many things because we ought to do them. We feel that we ought to do that. We feel that we ought to support that person. A tyranny of ought. They're things that other people could do. They're things that we don't necessarily need to do, but we feel that we ought to do them. I would say it's probably more prevalent in England than America. We are people pleasers by default, maybe because of our upbringing or a fear of our parents or letting people down. And let's not even get on to the God card. So often people can guilt us into doing things because God has told them that we should. I'm always wary of those kinds of people. People who use God to get their own way and serve their own purposes. There's so many things, hopefully, that we'll be able to do over the coming months and year. Things that we'll be able to celebrate together. And so my simple question for you is not what ought you to do, as in, oh, I ought to do that to keep others happy, or I ought to do that because it's expected of me, but what should you do? And by that I mean, what are the things that God's really placing on your heart and mind through what you read in the Bible, the circumstances you're in, the things that pop into your mind when you pray, other people that suggest things to you with good intent? What are those things that you should do? I'd encourage you to do those things. If you're like me, that means I need to pause a bit and not just rush into the next thing, but just wait and see what God is really guiding me to. I don't want to do things that I ought to do. I want to do things that are going to make a difference in this world. That's part of what I shared this Sunday in the talk, which was recorded in this garden, because I couldn't be in the building on Sunday and I couldn't do it that way. And afterwards, a lady from the church popped round with these scones. Or is it scones? Scones, and the jam, and the clotted cream. She rang the doorbell, put my t-shirt on, I thought that would be appropriate, went and opened it, and she said, these are for you and your family. Then she walked back to her car and she turned round just before she got in and said, I didn't make them because I thought I ought to. And she grinned at me. Amos, are they good?
They're great.